After 95 days of lawmaking, the Idaho legislature adjourned with no change in hemp laws. It remains illegal to grow, possess, or transport the product if it contains any amount of THC. Hemp discussions did, however, make for a good game of political football between the House and the Senate. Braden Jensen tracks the journey of hemp bills, starting with the House's near-unanimous passage of House Bill 122, which would legalize hemp in line with the federal Farm Bill.
So what we originally started out with was a bill that would essentially conform with the 2018 Farm Bill. It would remove hemp from the state-controlled substances list. It would also direct ISDA to essentially allow for the production of industrial hemp in the state. That bill was originally presented in the House Agriculture Ag Committee, and where it was heard, they held off on taking a vote on that piece of legislation for several weeks while there was an attempt to address some of the concerns that law enforcement, some of the prosecutors, and also the governor's office had with that bill.
No changes occur, and eventually House Bill 122 passes the House and goes to the Senate.
The bill was assigned to the Senate State Affairs Committee, where it was ultimately amended to address a lot of the concerns that were expressed by law enforcement, by the prosecutors, and by the governor's office. Now, those amendments essentially changed the bill completely. It was a new bill that did not legalize hemp in the state. It would address the interstate commerce and the transportation of hemp through the state. It would essentially exempt hemp from the controlled substance list for that reason, only for transportation and the interstate commerce through the state. That bill ultimately passed the Senate with only 3 dissenting votes. It was sent back to the House, where it ultimately died.
Now, in the last week of the session, the House passes a new bill, House Bill 300, that would allow interstate transport of hemp with a permit issued by the Department of Agriculture. House Bill 300 then goes to the Senate.
The Senate took it up and amended the bill, added a few clarifying points.
Points similar to what was in the original bill. Farm Bureau continued to support the new bill, even though it differed from the original bill, because one important component remained in the remodeled bill. It directed ISDA to develop a state hemp plan to be submitted to USDA for approval. Important to Farm Bureau because it would have put Idaho in the best possible position for a potential 2020 growing season. But the bill goes nowhere when returned back to the House for approval. A move that disappointed many farmers like Danny Walton of Emmett.
It's put Idaho so far behind that Idaho probably will never get the opportunity to be a producer in this, because everybody else will establish what's going on and flood the market before we become even a part of it. That's very concerning at a time when agriculture is in bad shape in the state of Idaho. If you're not in specialty crops, you're behind right now financially. Wheat don't even cover its own costs. Corn barely covers its own costs. Hay's a fairly good commodity because of cattle, and cattle's a fair commodity. But beyond that, farmers are having a tough time right now.
Jensen, a governmental affairs specialist for the Idaho Farm Bureau, Idaho's largest general farm organization, says hemp laws will be back again with intent to make it legal for farmers to grow.
We certainly understand that this issue that brings many different stakeholders to the table with a lot of different interests, and obviously our interest from Farm Bureau's perspective is providing that opportunity for our farmers, if they so choose, to have the ability to produce hemp in the state.
For the Voice of Idaho Agriculture, I'm Steve Ritter.